Some airports aren't just challenging, they're terrifying. Short runways, deadly terrain, unpredictable weather. At these places, even the slightest mistake can be fatal. These are the top 5 most dangerous airports in the world, and every landing here is a gamble with gravity. 5th Toncontin International Airport, Honduras. At number 5, we're kicking things off in the busy, bustling capital of Honduras, Tegucigalpa. Now, Toncontin International Airport isn't just any airport. It's basically a real-life obstacle course for pilots. The moment you see the approach, you'll understand why so many aviators talk about it, with that mix of respect and mild fear. The city is completely surrounded by steep hills, and that means you can't just fly in on a nice, straight path like at most airports. Oh no, to land on runway 02, pilots have to do something wild, a sharp 45-degree turn just seconds before touchdown. It's the kind of maneuver you'd pull off in a flight simulator at home and think, wow, that was fun. But here's the thing. In real life, it's the complete opposite of fun. It's high stakes, high precision flying, where even the tiniest mistake can have serious consequences. And let's talk about that runway. It's short, just under 2,200 meters, and it's sitting more than 3,300 feet above sea level. At that altitude, the air is thinner, and thinner air means planes need more speed and more runway to take off and land safely. But Toncontin doesn't give you extra space. You've got one short strip, and if you come in too fast or too far down the runway, there's a real chance you'll end up off the pavement and straight into city streets. Sadly, that nightmare scenario became reality in 2008, when TACA Flight 390 overshot the runway and ended up in traffic, leading to several tragic deaths. In recent years, most big international flights have moved over to Palmarola International, which has a much longer runway and far safer approaches. But Toncontin is still active for domestic and regional flights, and it hasn't lost its reputation. Pilots flying here still need special training, years of experience, and, let's be honest, nerves of steel. Every landing is a test. Every touchdown feels like threat. 4th, Princess Juliana International Airport, St. Martin. Sliding into number 4, we're heading to the sunny Caribbean and landing, quite literally, at Princess Juliana International Airport on the island of St. Martin. Now, unlike most airports on this list, this one isn't built on a cliffside or tucked away in some mountainous terrain. Nope, its danger factor comes from something completely different: people. Here's why. The approach path for incoming planes takes them directly over Maho Beach, and I'm talking low. So low that if you're standing there, you can probably count the bolts on the landing gear. It's one of the few places in the world where jumbo jets pass over your head, close enough to feel the vibrations in your chest. The runway itself is about 7,100 feet long, which sounds decent, but for heavy aircraft like the Boeing 747s and Airbus A340s that have graced this place, it's still on the short side. That means pilots have no wiggle room. They need to hit their landing spot perfectly because the water on both ends leaves no space for a sloppy approach. And to make it even trickier, coming in over open water means dealing with sudden gusts of wind or unexpected turbulence that can throw off the descent in seconds. And here's the thing, it's not just risky for pilots. Tourists flock to Maho Beach for the thrill of watching these landings, often standing right under the flight path. Some even cling to the airport fence during takeoffs just to feel the full blast of the engines. But that jet blast is no joke. It's powerful enough to knock people over, send belongings flying, and in a few tragic cases, it's even been deadly. Yet, despite the risks, Princess Juliana is iconic. For aviation fans, it's bucket list material, and while it's a spectacle from the sand, the real challenge is in the cockpit. 3rd, Paro International Airport. At number 3, we're heading straight into the heart of the Himalayas, to the Kingdom of Bhutan, a place known for its breathtaking scenery, ancient monasteries, and one of the most selective airports in the world, Paro International. And when I say selective, I don't mean expensive or exclusive. I mean only about 24 pilots on the entire planet are actually certified to land here. That's it. If you're not on that list, you're not touching down in Paro. Why? Well, start with the geography. This airport sits at roughly 7,300 feet above sea level, surrounded on all sides by Himalayan peaks that stretch up to a jaw-dropping 18,000 feet. It's like the airport was dropped right into a postcard, but a postcard that wants to test every bit of a pilot's skill. And here's the kicker. There's no instrument landing system here. None. That means no radar-guided approach to help you glide in safely. Every single landing is done visually. Pilots have to literally see where they're going, which is why flights are only allowed during daylight hours and when the weather is crystal clear. But clear doesn't mean easy. The approach requires weaving through narrow valleys, skimming past mountain ridges, and making sharp, almost last-second turns to align with a short runway at the valley floor. It's precision flying at its most intense, like threading a needle while riding a roller coaster. One wrong move, and there's no time or space to recover. And as if that wasn't enough, the weather in the Himalayas can change in the blink of an eye. You might take off under blue skies and arrive to find clouds, wind, or turbulence waiting to greet you. Pilots have to be ready to turn back at a moment's notice. Still, for those who are certified, landing at Paro is considered a badge of honor, a career highlight. The views are unmatched, the challenge is immense, and the sense of accomplishment is off the charts. But if you think this sounds wild, wait until you see number 2, a runway that's so steep, so short, and so unforgiving that once you commit to landing, there's absolutely no turning back. 2. Courchevel Altiport, France. Coming in at number 2 is Courchevel Altiport in the French Alps, a place that looks more like the starting point of a ski race than a runway. Seriously, this is not your standard flat strip of tarmac. The runway here has an 18.5% gradient. That's not a gentle slope. That's basically a giant ski slope for airplanes. And it's short, really short, to just 537 meters long. That's less than a third of what most commercial jets need. To make matters more intense, it's boxed in by the mountains. On one end, there's a steep drop-off. On the other, a wall of solid rock. There's no room for indecision. If you're approaching Courchevel, there's no go-around option. Once you line up and commit, you are landing, whether you want to or not. The slope does help you slow down when arriving, but it comes with its own problem. You can't even see the full length of the runway from the starting point. That means pilots have to judge their speed and descent angle without seeing exactly where they'll stop. If they miscalculate, well, let's just say there's not much margin before you run out of tarmac. Then there's the weather. Being in the Alps means snow, ice, fog, and sudden winds are all part of the package, especially in winter. Strong alpine gusts can turn a perfect approach into a nail-biter in seconds. That's why only pilots with specialized mountain flying training are allowed to operate here. Over the years, Courchevel has seen its share of incidents, from overshoots to tricky ground handling mishaps. Even seasoned pilots admit the place can be intimidating. It's the kind of airport where every landing feels like an achievement and every takeoff feels like you've just survived an extreme sport. 1. Tenzing Hillary, Lukla Airport, Nepal. Lastly, taking the number 1 spot is Tenzing Hillary Airport, better known as Lukla Airport in Nepal. If you've ever dreamed of trekking to Mount Everest, this is where the journey begins. But trust me, before you even take your first step toward the world's tallest mountain, your adventure has already started, because getting here is an experience all on its own. Lukla sits at a staggering 9,334 feet above sea level, right in the lap of the Himalayas. The runway, just 527 meters long, that's shorter than some aircraft carriers. And to make things even more intense, it's built on a steep incline. At one end, there's a sheer drop into a deep valley. At the other, a solid mountain wall stares you down. There's no room for oops here. You either stop in time, or you meet the wall. Weather at Lukla is the ultimate wild card. 1 minute, you're flying under bright blue skies. The next, you're swallowed up by thick clouds, battling gusty crosswinds and trying to see through sudden fog. And because the air is so thin at this altitude, planes need more speed to land and more distance to stop. 2 things you definitely don't want when your runway is already the size of a driveway. Only specially trained pilots, certified for short takeoff and landing STOL operations, are allowed to attempt Lukla. Flights are restricted to daylight hours and only go ahead if the weather is behaving, which honestly is rare. Even with all these rules, accidents have happened here, some with tragic outcomes. For climbers, Lukla is the gateway to Everest. For pilots, it's the ultimate test of skill and nerve. And for anyone watching from the ground, it's a heart-stopping reminder that some airports aren't just dangerous, they're legendary. And that wraps up the 5 most dangerous airports on Earth, where every landing is a fight against nature and physics. Which one would you risk flying into? Or would you avoid them all? Tell us in the comments, hit like and subscribe for more heart-stopping travel stories.